Welcome to the Intentional Way, where literally every moment is a step towards purposeful living. I'm Brian Hatch, here to explore the power of intention with you. Learn from our guests who embody intentionality. I'm glad you're here with me. Let's get started. Welcome everybody to another episode of The Intentional Way. I'm excited because we have a special guest here with us and someone that has become a good friend, but also an amazing colleague and professional. So we have Miranda Daigneault, and she's here with us. She's a high performance coach. She's actually a coach over elite entrepreneurs, meaning that she works with high capacity, high performing entrepreneurs that are up to some really cool things in their life. And she helps them in their business and in their all the things. So I'm excited to hear a little more about what she's doing there, but she's done more than just that. And everybody that's ever on this show, there's always more behind it. So Miranda, welcome and thank you for being here. Yeah. I do love to find out what you would have people know about you that I don't share, because I don't think that it's actually possible that I could share all things about you. But what else should somebody know that doesn't?
Yeah, I love that. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is one of the things that made our friendship fast was a crazy love for all things music, right? So there's something that you didn't share that's true about me. I think I'd also say that you mentioned all of the more professional parts of my life and what I do there. And I guess I would say that the way that I show up, the things that I do there, end up being true for me in my professional life as well. So those things like loving to talking about business and coaching and personal development, all of that stuff is true really whether I'm working or not. So it's a pretty good snapshot.
So when you say that you work to be high performing in your personal life and your professional life, and obviously thank you for sharing more about your personal life, what does that mean?
Oh, that's a good question. First of all, when you tell people you're a high performance coach, you think that, well, Miranda's got everything dialed in life, right? I'm super efficient and I never waste a moment and I just achieve ridiculous things all day, every day. And that's just not really true. But what I would say is that the things that high performance coaching specifically have brought to my life and that I really love being able to help other people with are things like purpose and focus and energy, right? That and all of that to me basically equals a more meaningful life, like being able to do what you want with your time and feeling good about how you show up every day.
Yeah, feeling good about how you show up every day. That's cool. And so you help other people do that in your coaching.
I help other people do that. I help other people define what is true for them or what's most important for them, and then helping them make that happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So through purpose, tell us more about why is purpose on the list? At least that was the one you mentioned
Yeah.
of what you work through.
Yeah, purpose came to mind because I talk about purpose both as an elite business coach and as more of a high performance coach, right? Like your personal purpose or your purpose as a business. And personal purpose is another thing that kind of has, I don't know, has too high of expectations around it. Like you're going to have one idea or one thing that you're pursuing for all of life. And if you don't have one, you're totally missing the boat. And if you do have one, it better be totally crystal clear and dialed in and you can't deviate for a second, right? It just feels like way too much pressure. Who really knows like what that is? And at the end of the day, in regards to high performance coaching, going through the exercise of trying to articulate like how you want to show up and what the best version of you might look like can at least help you get to the end of your day and decide if you do feel good about how you showed up, right? Like we often get stuck in a loop of not really feeling all that great, either about maybe we're overwhelmed, we didn't get enough done. Like that I'm guilty of that one all day. Like every single day I've never gotten enough done ever, right? And I never will. Or feeling like you didn't show up for the people in your life the way that you want to, or you're not achieving your goal, whatever that looks like. When you can articulate what a successful day or the best version of you might look like, well, then you can actually have something more meaningful and more realistic to work towards.
Okay. So I want to play with this a little bit. I just want to see where it goes. So if If people articulate and put down some clear about purpose or how you want to show up as you've described it, how often do you see, you've worked with many people, how often do you see people shoot really far and then consistently miss?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're now self-destructing because they're like, I never hit my goal. That's one.
Yep.
And the other part is how many people like conform the goal to their capability and always hit it like, sweet dude, I'm a rock star and I don't got to do nothing because I'm already good. Now, I'm interested to know what your thought.
I love that. You're right. So sometimes it swings so far one way or the other. To me, I try to keep bringing people back to, and it's not a one and done conversation. It's an ongoing conversation for everyone. But I try to keep coming back to, but what really matters to you, just to you. And we all operate under the lens of what other people think we should do, or what society taught us is a good thing to go after, or what the guy next to us that we subconsciously are measuring ourselves up next to, what he or she is doing. And whenever there's that sort of disconnect between how someone's showing up and the goal or the purpose or whatever it is they're trying to achieve, I just try to keep coming at it from different angles and different areas of life for them to get more and more clear on really what's true for them. So for me, it's, hey, if you're creating an obnoxiously huge goal, and you and I both know, okay, that's the thing, and you spend every day feeling like you're nowhere near, you're just not living in congruence with what's true for you. It's not that you can't be in congruence with what's true for you and have big goals. You can. But when it's all lined up and you feel great about it, then the pursuit keeps you connected enough. Does that make sense? So when you're not on the right track, or when you're shooting for something big just for the sake of it being big, or because it might be, I don't know, impressive to other people, and you don't really feel like that's true for you, you're always going to feel like you're falling short because you're kind of faking it.
So where does that,
Answer it?
yeah, but where does that lie then between us? If my goal is too big and I'm not making it, then I'm in that faking mode, or at least like I want the goal, but I'm not performing like a person that could achieve that goal.
There you go.
But then
There you go. That's good.
still, how does a person then stretch themselves without conforming the goal to them, to what
Perfect.
they already know?
Yeah. So if you think about it like, but I'm not performing in congruence with the person that's going to reach that goal, then it's a conversation of, well, how does that person show up? What are you doing that's not in congruence with the pursuit of that goal? How can we change that? Whatever that thing is, like a habit or a mindset or a skill that you need to learn, whatever that might look like, right? Like, how can we intentionally put you in a place where you are getting closer and closer to being in alignment with it? Quite often, when you get more and more in alignment with that person, the person that can reach that crazy big goal, I wouldn't say quite often, I would say sometimes it becomes more and more clear that wasn't really the goal. The goal was this other thing, and I wasn't really all that clear.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah. So then the process of this, of either stretching too far or conforming, or seeing that the goal isn't stretching enough, helps you in that process to see what the goal actually is, as opposed to what you say it is.
Yes, what the goal actually is, but also helps me to see what's most important to that person. Like, goals are received differently for different people. Like, I totally know the guy that you're talking about that has big goals and every day feels like they're falling short. It's like you're essentially proving to yourself, you're in a thought loop of proving to yourself that you're not good enough. What does that come from? What does good enough even mean? Right? And now then that where does that come from question is like, that taps into more like therapy. That's not necessarily just a coaching conversation. The two things work together. But it's, if I can offer a space for people to have messy conversations about what, I don't know, what feels right for them, or why they feel like they're not measuring up, or what measuring up might actually look like or feel like, then we're like moving in the right direction.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's incredibly, I think that gives a lot more light to the coaching process than I think I've ever heard anybody explain. Because I think I'm going to be your coach and I'm going to help you do these things. Some people after 2 weeks, well, why aren't we making some progress? It's because of this is what I'm hearing you say. I don't know, but like this, because of the process, we're honing in and getting alignment and getting closer to what actually is important versus what you say is important. That hopefully helps you now set some type of a runway or a vision for and driven in your purpose for what you want to create.
Yeah. And not all coaches are created equal, right? But that's my approach. That's I don't know, what I think is most important. That's the way that I try to live my life. That's my sort of ongoing personal pursuit. And so that's how I try to help other people. I've coached really successful people before that were business owners and have a bunch of kids at home and a few of them in high school. And she's feeling like, I'm burnt out. Like the reason that we started working together, she's like, I'm burnt out, not excited about this work anymore. I don't have the energy to go do it. And I need you to help re-inspire me to get back on it. I need you to hold me accountable to hit my goals at work and achieve whatever it is that she was working on. And we worked on that for a bit. And then we kept having more and more conversations about like, how do you want your life to go? Who do you want to be? What do you want that to look like? And eventually we stopped working together because she said she got to a point where she's like, I don't really want to be doing work right now. Like this is my daughter's senior year in high school and I'm never going to get this time back. Financially, they were set. She didn't need to continue on. And her business was such that she still would have passive income. She just wasn't powerfully charging after more and more or growth, right? So it would taper a bit, but they'd be fine. And she was like, I want to just be able to like be here for my kids when they get home. I want to not miss a single volleyball game. I want to pack them special lunches or whatever it is that she was excited about. And essentially she felt like working with me like gave her permission to articulate that and helped her feel better about not choosing to continue to keep up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't always go that way, but that's
awesome.
an example. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah, it doesn't like the path in coaching doesn't seem like it's a prescribed, like you must make $1 million in order for this to be the right way.
Totally.
It's like, what is the way for you in pursuing it?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, I don't know, from my perspective, and many other coaches will share this idea, and that is if you're being a great coach, you're not really giving people answers. You're helping them articulate what's true for them or what they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why can't people do it by themselves?
Oh, because it's messy up here. We're crazy. I'm crazy. You know how many swirling thoughts I have on any given day that may or may not actually make sense, right? And the moment that you say something out loud to someone else a couple of things happen, at least from my perspective. A couple of things happen. One, I get clear, right? If I have to say it out loud to you, I have to figure out how to say it in the most possible articulate way that I can at that time, right? So I have to get it a little bit more clear in order to have it leave my brain. The other thing is I'll know instinctively if it's real. Do you ever have an idea or a thought or, oh, I kind of feel this way? And then as soon as you say it out loud to somebody else, you're like, that's not it. I don't really feel that way. Or the opposite, where it's like, oh, I took that feeling or that thought or that dream that I've had in my brain forever. And now I have had enough guts to say it out loud to somebody else. That's the next level of reality. Now if I'm telling you a dream of mine, you could come back around and be like, hey, how's that going? And now I'm accountable to it to some degree, right? Now it's real. Now it's like an actual thing out in the universe for other people to sort of see versus just churning around with all the other messy things.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting what happens in our heads versus what happens when we articulate it. And like you said, it's interesting to see what comes out, but also to be intentional about what comes out makes a huge difference. Not that you should, I think there's an exploratory process and that maybe the coaching that you're speaking of.
Yeah.
Depending on who you're with, it may or may not be the right moment. But if there's a true, like someone that's listening to help, like a coach in your case would be doing, then it seems very useful to get it out in, is that what I think? Or is that not what I think? And I love that. It's the process of creating. Like it is, you can't, when you think of something, until you speak it, it's like you said, it's a mess. It could, and it might be a really cool mess, but it might never come to anything if it's never put to words.
Totally. I've been playing more and more recently with, and I offer that space for people in a coaching capacity. I offer that space to just show up as a mess and just say what's on it, like get the thoughts out, do the thing. I've been playing with being more intentional about doing that, specifically with one of my best friends. And we have this process of, and we just send each other voice notes, right? Like on our phone that are rambling and not clear, right? To go back to what I was saying before about when you say it out loud, you have to force yourself to be more articulate.
Yeah.
And we have sort of intentionally gone about it from, you don't have to be articulate. If you have something on your mind and you just want to get it out, or you want to feel more clear or whatever, just random stream of consciousness words, just blah, all over a voice note. And we send them back and forth to each other. And sometimes that looks like moments where I'm feeling emotions that you might think are more negative, right? If I'm having a moment of self-doubt, or I'm having a moment of mom guilt, for example, pick up my phone and I'll send my friend a rambling voice note about how I'm a fraud because I'm a coach and I help other people achieve amazing things in their lives, but I'm not doing what I've set out to do. And I'm not sure if I believe I really can. And what does that come from? And like just blah, all of it. And we've sort of given each other permission and space to do that. And I think that certainly you could go too deep into that practice, right? And you could start to believe yourself. But if you can do it from a lens of, or with an intention of, I'm going to just get that out. Like everybody has thoughts like that. Let's say self-doubt, for example.
For sure.
And instead of keeping them trapped inside here, I'm going to release them so they can go away. And if you can come at it from that angle, like that's gone now, at least for the next whatever chunk of time, that has served me really well. It's just a new thing that I'm like playing around with, because those are the kind of things I do with my girlfriends. But yeah.
So getting it out is, how would you just like at a high level, like really high level,
Mm-hmm.
getting it out, what does that do for you?
Honestly, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel lighter.
Oh, okay.
Really quickly. Like in moments where I might hold on to that feeling a bit longer, it would stay with me for the afternoon or for the rest of the day or something like that. In my experience so far, it helps me sort of work through it faster. I got it out. It doesn't mean, boom, I hang up the phone and now I'm like a ray of light and it's gone completely, but I shift a lot faster.
That's interesting.
I know, you should try it.
Because I'm interested to know, like, when you're doing that practice, if it ever becomes more real because it's being said.
Oh.
Now, if I think this is my own personal thought. I don't know if this is perfect or not, but if I think of something over and over and over and over, I'll typically become it in some way, whether it typically is going to come out of my mouth. It's typically going to come out of my mouth. Maybe not the way I'm articulating in my head, but it's going to come out in some way, and definitely in my actions.
Yeah.
So my question is, I'm interested to know.
Yeah.
If you're speaking these things that maybe I don't like it, is it reinforcing to you of, oh, I am self-doubt, or I am not thinking of this the right way, so therefore I'm not good at XYZ?
Yeah. Oh, great question. And maybe there's somebody who is more experienced or knowledgeable in this area that would be like, that's a terrible idea. Don't send voice notes to people about how awful you are. Like somebody somewhere is going to listen and be like, no, Miranda, stop telling people to do that. From my perspective, it has yet to be something that is like specifically repeated, right? It might be another moment of self-doubt, but I'm talking about it like in another example or from another angle or another thing. It's more like I'm sharing my self-doubt around a specific thing that's in front of me.
Okay.
And it enables me to move on that way.
Okay. So maybe possibly you haven't said this, but I'm going the next level of this is please. When you do that, you might get some feedback loop of, yeah, Miranda, you got this. There's also that if you're like, hey, this is a garbage thought per se.
Yep.
And then they come back like, yeah, that is garbage. Like, don't let that go.
Yeah.
That might be reinforcing in the positive way and not in the negative.
Yeah. So that leads me to another, I don't know, random thing that I've been doing more often with just the people in my life. And that is, tell the person what you're looking for or what you need. I feel like we all have so many people in our lives that want to show up powerfully for us. And we know what we want them to do to show up well for us, but we don't explicitly tell them. We might hint around. If you're married, you might have had conversations about this is my love language, or it means a lot to me if you plan a date or something like that. But in one-off moments, I've started telling like my closest people, like, here's what I need you to do for me right now. And it's awesome because for the people that you care so much about, they want to know. They want to be you want more than anything else to be told. Like, if I would have walked into this room today and you would have been like, Miranda, I'm shaky. I don't know what I'm doing. I need you to just give me a 2-minute pep talk. I would have been like, yes. And not for you, but for me. Do you know what I mean? I would have been like, I feel amazing about myself that he trusted me enough to say something like that. And heck yeah, I'm going to give you a pep talk. That's amazing. Here I go, right? So to come back to the context of the voice notes that are sad and terrible, and maybe I shouldn't tell people to do that, but I'll tee them up often. Here's what I need from you. I need you to tell me I'm awesome and I'm bulletproof and I can do all of the things. And sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you just want someone to sit in the mud with you. Hey, I'm not ready to move past it yet, so I just need you to agree that this sucks for me. And then she does that, right? And she feels great about it. And so do I, because I get what I need because I told her what to do.
Yeah, so many cool things come from this. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this episode, please subscribe, follow, and download our episode. Your support allows us to bring more intentional guests just like this, and it means the world to us. Now, let's get back to the episode. The thing is that a lot of people want people to want to do that for them.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to tell somebody to show up and help me and give me a pep talk. I want them to want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's interesting because like it's such a moving bullseye in life when we think that other people are going to read our mind and be like, show up. So that's cool. That's cool that you're saying that. And here's another part of the conversation I think is just fascinating.
Yeah.
We wander around life acting as if the words we speak are understood the way I do. Meaning when I'm talking right now, I'm acting a little bit as if you're understanding all that's spinning in my mind around these words we're sharing even just today, right?
Yep.
And what an error that is.
Totally.
Gosh, what an error that we act like people actually understand us.
For sure. Even work. And I look up the definition for so many words, and I assume then, after I look it up, that the person I'm talking to also knows the true definition of the word. Right? Like I want to use the word the right way. And so I'll Google it to make sure I'm using the right word, and I'll send it on to you. Yep, good job, Miranda. You nailed it. But you might not. You might think it means something else. You might not know the true definition. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even when you think you're totally by the book, that doesn't mean that the other person gets it at all.
That happened in a recent episode.
Really?
I was filming and the guest at that time defined a word, and I'm like, why haven't I looked that up?
Yeah.
Because that makes it wholly different looking at it that way as opposed to the way that we assume it is. I just think language is very fascinating. We can be very specific, we can be very thoughtful, but we act like people actually know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that not everybody's a great communicator.
Most people aren't great communicators.
Right. It's hard for people to articulate what they're really thinking. That's hard.
Because there's feelings and there's context and there's situational. I won't feel the same way about this scenario if you put me with a different group of people. Like it just depends on so many things. Yeah. So okay, I'm going to bring this back to something you started the very first of our session here.
Okay.
Is like music. And this actually connects. I know that you love music at a high or a deep level, high, deep, whatever you want to look at it. Like it's incredible compared to a lot of people. And I'm sure there's millions of people that share that same love of music in the way that you do. But I think of language and I think of, so tell me why maybe all that we've talked about works for you in music. I'm very interested to know. Yeah, bring it that because I love that topic.
Yeah, I think that music often can articulate something that you've been wanting to communicate in a way that you never would have been able to come up with, right? I don't know, just thinking about lyrics alone, but like the mood of a song can also articulate like another level of the message behind it. I also think that my sort of wide-ranging love of music gives me an in with so many people. And I'm a coach. I love connecting with people. I love building relationships. I love having conversations with people that are maybe a little bit more personal than they normally would be in that certain context. And music allows me that opportunity. I also think you can learn a lot from somebody about like just the kind of music that they like or the way they talk about music, right? The way they present or share or whatever details come up for them when you talk about music. It's such a great conversation starter. It
Yeah.
just is. It gets you in all over the place.
Yeah, that's people do have, I think you're maybe a little more unique than most of the people I've met. Like you have love for like almost every type of music where there's most people are like, these are my three favorites.
Yeah,
Now, there's depth in there, but
totally.
there's also passive music listeners that are like, I like it. Why do you like
Totally.
it? I just do.
Yeah, just like
Whatever.
it there. Yeah,
Yeah,
no
it's
big
cool.
deal. You can be in charge here.
But there's a different, that's why I like talking music with you, because it's like,
Yeah,
it is what is being said, how it's being delivered, the mood of, like you said, of how it's being delivered that creates something different than just speaking. Like you could write a poem and it'd be like, that's fascinating. When you put it in music, it's just,
like 3D poem.
it's like 10D. It's
Yeah, yeah,
so much more.
yeah. You know, it's funny. So I have a friend coming to stay with me this weekend and thinking about getting the house ready for her and clean the bathroom and the clean towels and whatever drinks she likes to have. I'll have them there, right? And in my head, I was thinking about music, right? What songs would Holly like if I played? Do I have a playlist already that I could like just have on shuffle that she would enjoy? I thought about that, right? And then I had this idea in my head of what kind of music I might play for Holly. And in my head, I thought, man, I haven't really been listening to that genre as much more recently. I've been going this other way for whatever reason. And do you know what's funny is I had a moment where I thought, is it insincere? Am I a chameleon when it comes to music where I just follow whoever else's tastes are around me? And I had a moment of like, is that real for me? Or am I just like trying to humor the people around me? And now that we've had this whole conversation, which is sort of funny timing, I've settled on the fact it's like, no, that's just, I share we have that in common. So I love that kind of music, just like she likes that kind of music. And when she's around, I'll intentionally have that on because we both do, right?
Okay. You've led me to a point like, tell me some music that you don't like. Tell me an artist. There's got to be something like
Yeah,
that one might round out the conversation because
sure.
that might help.
Okay. I like rock music. I also like what a lot of people would think is hard rock music. But there's like the next level of hard rock has just become too much for me. And it's maybe because of age. Like you could not get me to listen to like death metal.
Okay.
Right. Like the screaming. And I just, because I think really just because I'm too old, I just can't do that anymore.
Was there ever a point in your life where, yeah, dude, throw it on?
No, I was
Okay.
never listening to Insane Clown Posse or anything like that. Right. I was never, they have a word for their people. The ICP fans, there's a name for them. I'm not that. I can't even think of what it is, but there's a funny name. I'm not that. I've never been that. But I did when I was younger, and this is, I'm sure, my brother's influence, liked sort of rock music that you wouldn't peg me to like, right? Like a little bit harder.
Okay.
So I don't really like that. And
define like what is a little harder. Tell me, what is a band that like would feel like, yeah, I like them, or a song, yeah, I like that, but it doesn't fit into what you've talked about as like the really heavy metal screamer.
Okay, so a band that's like on the edge there is, so my brother also loves music, right? That's part of the reason why this is all true for me. And he recently made me a playlist. Think about someone who knows my love language, right? He recently
mixtape. That's cool.
He made me a Spotify mixtape, basically, which I love. And he just thinks that I would love the band Highly Suspect. And it is, you know, at a glance, a little bit harder than I'm used to listening to right now. But he knows the Miranda from all of the years who used to like music that was a little harder. So he's like, what do you mean? You don't like that band? I think you would like them. Well, I'm open-minded, of course, right? Send me what you think I'm going to like. I'll listen to it. And I'll listen to it a few times, right? Like I won't instantly dismiss. And so he curated a playlist of songs by Highly Suspect that he thought I would like because he essentially wants to prove it to me that I do still like it. And that's just a fun, playful thing about our relationship. But that band is on the edge. So there are songs that they have that are slower. I can't remember the name
That's
of right
okay.
now because
Yeah.
it's a new thing. That I was like, yeah, you're right, Jace. I love these. And then there were others that got shuffled in the mix. I was like, yeah, it just feels like too much for me. So that band is probably a good.
So there's a spectrum of it gets too much in whatever way you're going to define that, whether it's the lyrics or the beat or the screaming or
Intensity or
intensity or
something.
whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So backing off that a little bit, I want to dive into when you like listen to music for the first time,
Yeah.
or and maybe it's come recommended, or you've learned or you heard something like, oh, I want to check that out. So you hear it in a movie or a soundtrack, and you're like, oh, check that. How do you listen to music? Like at
Oh,
that point, when you're interested in it, not like it's just casual, like someone just threw it on, but oh, I want to check this person out or this band out.
that's an interesting. I've never had somebody ask me that before. I've never thought about that before, but I know the answer. And that is, I don't like to listen to new music in the background style. I like to listen to music I know pretty well in the background style. If I listen to something new that way, I won't really like it. I dismiss it too quickly. I want to intentionally, wholeheartedly take in the new music, and then usually I can, I don't know, receive it in a better way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I want to ask you a question. Can I?
Yeah.
Tell me a band that you don't really like that so many people love. Do you have one that you're like, I cannot?
We probably already had this conversation. I'm trying to think of
Maybe.
I focus so much on what I do love and I'm actually wrapped in a kind of a genre right now that I've found and I'm really loving.
Yeah.
I know that there are that I just don't like and everybody else likes. I'm gonna out myself on this one.
I don't think
that I've told you. I don't think I've told you this. Maybe I
Okay.
have.
Okay.
I'm not an REM fan.
Okay.
It's
okay.
I like
Yeah.
so many songs I put on. I'm like, I just can't get there. It just doesn't work. And that's one. But what is there one that I've told you in the past that you're thinking of?
Nope, there's not.
That would be one that I'd put in that genre of like, it's not my jam at all.
It's just, I like them. I just don't love them like people do. Do you know what I mean? It's fine. I'm not ever going to put a whole like CD in my playlist from REM. That's not going to be a thing for me. Now I have to answer that question.
Yeah. Why do you ask? Yeah.
Well, here's why I ask, because I think that's also a really interesting way to learn about somebody, not only in their music taste, but just like what they think. Because sometimes people will pick something that's like really popular because they have that sort of mindset that's go against the grain. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that detail I could pull out from somebody. And sounds like I'm making all kinds of assumptions after asking somebody about a band, right? That's a pattern in other ways. But sometimes people go that way where they're like, everybody loves this person. And so I couldn't possibly.
Oh, yeah.
Like kind of a little bit defiant, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it also shows up in like, my dad or my sister loves this band and they kept playing it. Oh, it's just been too much, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sort of it's shoved down your throat a little bit and so you get over it. But I don't know. I just think that sometimes opens up a more fun.
There's that, it's just overplayed and so therefore it's not as fun anymore.
My dad hates the song Piano Man by Billy Joel. Exactly.
Oh, man.
I know. He hates it. And it just was overplayed for me. I'm like, okay.
Wow, it's so good.
Okay, Pops.
That's something.
Isn't that terrible?
But it is funny that some people like go against it because they're like, oh, everybody likes that, so I can't. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. That's cool. I love talking about these things because I think that it like the way that who you like as far as music, what you like, it doesn't necessarily matter what it is, but it definitely tells us a little more about you. This is cool. And those that listen to music the way that you do, in my experience, and I can't assume for everybody, but those that listen to music like you do, there's a level of intention in just the music. And I think everybody's intentional somewhere in their life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be music for everybody. It can be whatever they want it to be.
Yeah.
But music is just so encapsulating. So it's a fascinating topic.
Yeah. I think that for me, to sort of bridge the gap between intentionality and music, I think for me, I don't really understand music as well as you would think a music lover on the level that I am does, right? Like, I don't know a lot about making music or it, I don't play any instruments, right? Nothing like that. But I am intentionally like really open-minded, not only in music, but in people and experiences and things I might, just other things that I might like. I try to show up in life in a way that's, hey, I'm going to assume I love this thing. I'm going to assume I love this person until I get proven otherwise. Like that sort of approach. And I think that has probably factored into why I've been open to loving more and more kinds of music.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love hearing people say things like that. Like I assume the positive until there's evidence of the negative.
Yeah. How does that sit with you?
It doesn't. It doesn't sit with me because I think knowing someone well enough, eventually there will be friction. Eventually there will be something that doesn't sit well.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that like the zest of life a little bit, is like finding and learning something about people, and you're like, you know what, I know that about you and I love you anyways, or we're friends anyways. But there are things that, like, that's a deal breaker in our friendship if you're gonna, whatever it is. Like, I understand there are those scenarios where that can be possible, and I still think when we walk into relationships that way of like, it starts so well. And I think you're a great relationship person. It's just fun to be in a relationship with you, like talking with you, a friendship, right? So I don't think that you're doing it wrong. I just think that you go in almost waiting for something bad to happen. And maybe that's not actually how you experience it, but that's how I hear it when I hear people say that, is I assume positive until otherwise. And it's, oh, so like, how long do you have to go until you find the otherwise?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. I think from my perspective, it's more just like, you know, if I want really amazing relationships in my life, I want to start from a place of assuming it's going to be great. Like, I just am going to show up like on a Zoom with you thinking we're going to be great friends. And I don't consciously think it. I just sort of do at this point in my life. It's like natural to me. And I'm going to believe in you and I'm going to trust you. That's controversial to a lot of people. Like I throw my trust around all over the place. Whereas somebody else is like, hey, I need a little more time. Like I don't trust you until I know for sure. And I, for whatever reason, I'm able to go the other way or just naturally have gone the other way. And it's really enabled me to make meaningful relationships quickly. And yeah, sometimes I trust people or share something personal or think that everything is going to be smooth sailing with them, and then it's not. And at the end of the day, the odds are in my favor, right? Like I've proven to myself so many times that it usually does work out well, then that when it doesn't, I don't internalize it. I just think, okay, and now I move on. Now I spend more time with other people.
And so we just proved out the point that, like, we assume what people say, they understand us.
Yeah.
And so you saying that, it makes tons of sense. And I don't think, even the way that I see it versus the way you see it, the way you experience it is way better. It's the more powerful, more useful way to think of things. And especially when you pit it against it, like trust first or hold back trust first. Oh yeah, trust first is going to win. I'm telling you, it's going to win. It will win.
Yeah.
Time and time again over the person that doesn't, because people rise to how we're experiencing them, as opposed to, you walk into a relationship with someone, like, I can tell it doesn't trust me.
For sure.
Because everything that we're thinking, feeling is coming out some way, whether it's our actions or the behavior we have around that person. You go on these things, like, you've been in a room where you're like, hey, are you okay? And they never said a word.
Right.
No, it's different if they're like punching walls. That's really easy to tell. But if you're like, man,
energetically, you're like, what?
And they might be like, just humming, just be like on all cylinders, getting things done and happy and like mentally happy. But like your experience of like, yo, are you okay? Like, you just feel tense, and it's like, oh yeah, really? Oh, okay. And you learn something, but it's fascinating.
Yeah. I also think that I feel like I'm jumping around all over the place, but I think that it's like,
that's what we do here on this podcast.
Oh, this is the jump around podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe you should rename it.
Yeah, exactly.
You might want to think about that. But for me, it's like This is going to sound so woo, but our lives are really nothing more than like a series of thoughts. What's really true for us is not really what's in front of us, although I get that it is, but it's really how we experience it, right? Like at the end of the day, I can go home and choose to feel however I want to feel about how this podcast went. I can go home and I can think, wow, that was the most surprisingly great time I didn't even know I was going to have today. Like today was actually an exceptional, cool day for me because I said yes to doing this thing with my friend Bryan a long time ago. And then I ended up sharing some really fun things and I didn't even know I was going to do that. And lucky me that I got to do that thing, right? I can think about it that way. All of the other external things, exactly the same. Or I can go home and I can think, oh, I probably shouldn't have taken that time out of my workday. I have all these other things on my list. I am overwhelmed. And now I'm going to be behind again because I'm always behind and I never have enough time and I'm always so busy. And it was fun and I like hanging out with Bryan, but maybe I shouldn't have done that because now I got all this other stuff. Everything else is exactly the same.
Yeah.
But my life and how I experience it is different because of my thoughts about it. And that is also true about people, which is a tricky thing to wrap your brain around because it's sort of like people are who they are, right? Like I can't change who you are intrinsically.
Yeah.
Every time that I talk to you, if you're a jerk to me just being like, yeah, it's no big deal doesn't change that, right?
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, you can level up the way you experience people if you intentionally come at them from a place of you're amazing and lucky me that I get to hang out with you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's super optimistic, almost Pollyannish, but I love it. I love it.
I get that.
I think,
I
like,
get
again,
that.
I tend to believe that anyone's going to think in that on a pendulum swing in the side of the arena where it's more positive, more assume good, assume the positive, assume that people are happy and nice. I think you win more often than not. And I think that there's still a way that you can interact with people to find out what you really have in front of you. And then you can make a decision whether you want to continue to perpetuate that relationship or not without being a pessimist, without saying, oh, you could look. But I think when you dig behind someone with the intent to listen, as opposed to the intent to crush or the intent to be better or to show cooler stories, or what are those thoughts that are happening prior to the conversations we're having? And then we can say, all right, is that I hit the bottom of where we were, but my intention was to learn who this person was. And now I have the decision. Now I get to say, yeah, I really dig this person. I want to pursue a friendship. I want to pursue a work relationship. I want to, whatever it is. I want to do business with the person, whatever it is. But it's all about those thoughts. I agree with you there. And some people, don't get me wrong, I don't think that we control our thoughts 100% of the time, but some people believe that we don't. Our thoughts just come out of nowhere and we have no control over it. There are thoughts that come that may be sporadic or may feel like they're coming outside of yourself to you, and you can entertain them, you can wrestle with them, you can whatever, and you can create your thoughts as well. It's what you focus on, as you said. Like it's what, when you leave, whichever those two scenarios you paint,
Sure.
or a myriad
I'm
of
gonna
other
go with
ones.
the first option.
In a myriad of other ways you can look at it. Those are not only the two ways you can look at it.
Sure.
But of those two, it's still what you decide to think about, what you decide to hold on to.
Right. Or even as opposed to, that's kind of a sucky thought. And I keep thinking that sucky thought. So do I have it within me to maybe stop thinking about that all the time? Could that be possible? Right? Could I create some space between my thoughts and my awareness of my thoughts? Right? That thing where maybe sometimes they plop into your head, but there could be a practice of giving yourself a moment to be like, yeah, that's not a keeper.
That is literally the core of what I believe is intention, is that when something happens,
Yeah.
that we know happens often. Okay. So if I meet with you once a week and every time, like I always think, gosh, I'm so mad about this thing. Every time that you bring up marketing or whatever it is, like
Sure.
you bring up a topic and I'm like, I get defensive about it. And I'm noting that, like, why did I think that? She just said, hey, how's it going over here with our ads? And I'm like, gosh, why are you so mad about the ad? Like,
Yeah,
but if I'm noticing that my thoughts reoccur given a scenario, then it's looking at that and saying, I don't want that thought anymore.
that's right.
I want this new thought. And so therefore, when this happens and I feel that, I'm going to be like, oh no, she just asked about ads. We're going to talk. I can decide what my new thought is going to be about it versus the regular or my automatic.
Yeah. And I think that when you share an idea like that, some people, not right or wrong, not like good or bad, don't have awareness around the fact that they can control their thoughts, or even that you could choose to just to play around there, right? A lot of people go through life just being a victim to their thoughts. I don't feel good enough. That is something that's true about me, period. Right?
It's not. No, it's not.
But do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Right? Like that thought process, or like, I'm constantly overwhelmed. Can you tell that's a thing I'm trying to break free from right now? I keep bringing that up, right? Like a single mom and a professional and doing all the things, like I got a lot of things on my list, right? And I'm working on being intentional around choosing to see it in another light, right? And coming at it from another angle. Or it's not always as simple as, I don't want to feel overwhelmed. I'm just going to feel nothing but gratitude, right? That's, I think, often like where people get tripped up a lot, because that doesn't even feel, that's not real, Miranda. That's insincere. I can't just say I'm grateful and not overwhelmed and boom, it fixes it. Well, no. Okay, sure. But you could try some things to first just break out of the loop of overwhelm, right? Like just intentionally add more moments in your day where you think about things you're grateful for. Super simple idea. Or be more intentional about paying attention when you are overwhelmed, right? Or scheduling your day or your tasks in a way that that some way, somehow you can feel like you have completed things or caught up enough, right? Stop overbooking yourself, or stop the never-ending to-do list, or the thought process of, if I get these 2 things done today, I have won, period. Anything outside of that is bonus, right? Like you can come at it from a bunch of different ways, but I think that if you just know that there are other options, right? Be intentional. Like being intentional is like, after you are aware that you could choose something else, okay, then what do you want to choose?
I think that if you just simply identify 3 things that happen often that you don't like,
Love that. Love that idea.
and then change the thought and change your response to those 3 things, because I think you're right.
Oh, that's good.
Like I could do an experience. I could have a new morning routine, or I could run every time that I'm mad, or like whatever it is. Like you could do practices, but I still think, where's the friction? Where's the problem? Where's the challenge coming from? And when you identify it, decide it to be different. Instead of just roll through it like every other time. Whenever this happens, I always get mad. And then this happens and we roll into this. And then at the end of it, this person's crying and whatever. That's not good. So identify 3. Like it's not a
really
big
good.
number, and then
great.
go from there.
That's great. Everybody's got something that's, I don't know, part of their life, part of their day that feels like a slog, or is their least favorite, or
Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter how
whatever
awesome you
it
are.
is.
You could be like crushing it in all areas of your life,
Yeah.
and still find 3 things you're like, I don't like when that happens. I like when this happens. I like that. Okay, now start thinking about it differently and responding to it differently. And therein lies like the intention.
And then it's like a practice, right? So it's not a one and done thing. Anytime you're trying to like change your mindset or your habits or whatever, it's never a one and done. So then set something up so you follow through, or you check back in with yourself, or you have a friend that you check back in with, whatever that looks like. You write it in your journal, and then every so often you reread your journal or something like that to sort of circle back. Because I bet that most people, if they just set out to see things differently and actually took steps to do it, right? Like you can't just hope and wish, right? But actually took steps to do it, whatever that looks like, be surprised how much you can change it sort of faster or easier than you think. Don't you think that's true?
I believe it's true, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It only matters what the person believes is true. If they think that, oh, this is never going to work, it won't. Guaranteed it.
Right. Just prove it to yourself.
Yeah.
Just prove it to yourself a couple times. That's all you need.
I think prove it to yourself repetitiously is important. But gosh, this has been fun. There's so many things we go. I think I could talk for hours around these subjects. Obviously, that's why,
That's why we're
I
here.
decided to have this podcast.
I know. I'm so excited.
But thank you so much for being here with me. What else needs to be said in closing? I'm gonna let you close it out. Like, what else needs to be said that hasn't been? We've touched on some fun subjects.
Man, I feel like I talked about so many things all over the place. So, that tracks for me. I tend to have random streaming thoughts that may or may not make sense. I think that if there was a theme that's coming to mind for me about what we talked about is all of those little practices, sending voice notes to someone or thinking about 3 areas in your life that you want to improve or whatever that, like all of that, if you are on a journey to do better in life, it's all of those tiny little things that slowly snowball into, as I see it, essentially a more meaningful life. And I think it is so sad how so many of us sort of don't have that meaning in life. We don't feel like we're doing that great at it, and we don't even know what it is. And I think that the way to better, happier, more meaningful, more joy, whatever it is that you want, is through a bunch of tiny little things, whether it feels right or wrong. Like, just play around with it. Give it a go.
I love it. Give it a go, do something different, and be intentional. So thanks for being a guest here today. It's been fun having you.
Oh, it was my honor to be here. I'm so excited that I get to be a part of it. Thank you, Bryan.
Love it. Thanks. Thank you for joining us on The Intentional Way. I'm Bryan Hatch, and it's been a true privilege to share this time with you. If today's episode has inspired you in any way, shape, or form, please subscribe, follow, and download our episodes. Your support not only helps us grow, it also enables us to bring more insightful conversations and exceptional guests right to you. Living intentionally begins with a single step, yours. So let's make the most of it. Until next time, seek intention by being completely present.